U.S. Army Rangers. U.S. Army Rangers. Formed in June 1942, the U.S. Army Rangers became America's first modern special operations force, modeled directly after British Commandos. Their purpose? Execute missions beyond the capability of standard infantry: rapid infiltration, direct assault on fortified positions, and reconnaissance deep behind enemy lines. Their first combat came during Operation Torch in North Africa, November 1942, followed by the assault on Sicily during Operation Husky in July 1943. But their most defining moment came on June 6, 1944, D-Day. 225 Rangers scaled the 100-foot cliffs of Pointe du Hoc under heavy German fire to neutralize artillery threatening the Allied invasion. Operating in small, self-sufficient units, they secured beachheads, eliminated defensive strongpoints, and carved pathways for advancing divisions. Their precision, endurance, and tactical adaptability created the blueprint for every U.S. Special Operations unit that followed. Marine Raiders. Marine Raiders. Established in February 1942 under Major General Holland Smith and Lieutenant Colonel Evans Carlson, the Marine Raiders became the Marine Corps' first elite amphibious commando force. Their mission? Lightning strikes on Japanese-held islands, deep reconnaissance, and operations that exceeded the scope of conventional Marines. Their first combat deployment came on August 17, 1942, the Makin Island Raid, a diversionary attack designed to pull Japanese attention from Guadalcanal. 211 raiders launched from submarines, destroyed installations, and killed over 80 enemy troops in 40 hours of fighting. They followed with extended jungle campaigns on Guadalcanal and Bougainville, operating in small, autonomous companies using rubber boats, night landings, and coordinated naval gunfire support to strike behind Japanese defensive lines. In 1944, their 4 battalions were dissolved and merged into standard Marine regiments, but their doctrine, speed, surprise, and small unit autonomy laid the foundation for modern U.S. amphibious special operations. Office of Strategic Services, OSS. Office of Strategic Services. Created on June 13, 1942, under Major General William J. Donovan, the OSS became America's first centralized intelligence and covert operations agency. Their mission: collect intelligence, organize resistance movements, and conduct sabotage deep inside Axis-controlled territory. OSS agents deployed across occupied France, Norway, Burma, and China, operating under false identities, with forged documents and clandestine radio networks. Their most significant operation was Jedburgh Joint Allied Missions that parachuted 3-man teams into France ahead of D-Day to arm, train, and coordinate French resistance forces. In Asia, OSS Detachment, 101 trained Kachin guerrillas in Burma, provided reconnaissance for Allied airstrikes and rescued downed pilots from Japanese-held jungle. The OSS combined espionage, psychological warfare, sabotage, and field operations into a single coordinated force. When it was dissolved in October 1945, its structure, methods, and personnel became the foundation for the Central Intelligence Agency and U.S. Special Operations Command. First Special Service Force. First Special Service Force. Formed in July 1942 as a joint American-Canadian commando unit, the First Special Service Force was trained for mountain warfare, unconventional tactics, and raids behind enemy lines. Known as the Devil's Brigade, they were selected for physical endurance, adaptability, and stealth operations in extreme terrain. Their first combat deployment came during Operation Cottage on Kiska Island in August 1943, followed by critical roles in the Italian campaign. Their most legendary action occurred in December 1943, the assault on Monte la Defensa, a German-held mountain fortress that had repelled multiple Allied attacks. In freezing conditions, the force scaled sheer cliffs at night, surprised the German defenders at dawn, and secured the position in brutal close-quarters combat. They continued operations at Anzio, where they conducted aggressive night raids that convinced German intelligence they were facing a full division rather than 1,800 men. Disbanded in December 1944, their tactics directly shaped modern U.S. and Canadian special operations doctrine. Merrill's Marauders. Merrill's Marauders. Activated in October 1943 under Brigadier General Frank Merrill, the 5,307th Composite Unit Provisional, nicknamed Merrill's Marauders, was formed for long-range penetration operations in the China-Burma-India theater. Their mission: march deep into Japanese-held territory, disrupt supply lines, and support Allied advances through some of the most hostile jungle terrain in the world. Operating under extreme heat, monsoon rains, and disease, They fought continuous engagements during Operation Galahad in early 1944, marching over 1,000 miles through dense Burmese jungle with minimal resupply. Their objective was Miet Kiina, a strategic town and Japanese airfield that controlled supply routes into China. In May 1944, after 5 major battles and 30 minor engagements, the Marauders seized Miet Kiina's airfield. Of the original 2,997 men, only 200 were still combat effective by the end of the campaign. Despite casualties from combat, exhaustion, malaria, and dysentery, their endurance and tactical success set the standard for future U.S. Army long-range special operations units. Underwater Demolition Teams, UDT. Underwater Demolition Teams. Formed in 1943 by the U.S. Navy, the underwater demolition teams were created to clear obstacles, mines, and barriers from beaches before amphibious landings. Originating from early naval combat demolition units, they combined swimming, explosives expertise, and reconnaissance into one of the earliest maritime special operations roles. Their first major missions supported Operation Flintlock in the Marshall Islands in January 1944, followed by Operation Forager in the Mariana Islands. UDT swimmers conducted pre-invasion beach surveys and demolition work under direct enemy observation, often swimming within 1,000 yards of fortified Japanese positions. On D-Day at Omaha Beach, UDT and Naval Combat Demolition units cleared 16 lanes through German obstacles under withering machine gun and artillery fire, suffering 31% casualties in the first hour. In the Pacific, they surveyed landing zones at Iwo Jima, Okinawa, and dozens of other islands, providing critical intelligence on water depth, reef formations, and defensive obstacles. Their precision, courage under fire, and innovation made them the direct predecessors of the modern U.S. Navy SEALs. Air Commandos. Air Commandos. Established in March 1944, the 1st Air Commando Group was formed to provide direct aerial support for special operations in the China-Burma-India theater. Created under Colonel Philip Cochrane and Colonel John Allison, the unit operated in coordination with British forces, notably Orde Wingate's Chindits, to insert supply and evacuate troops operating behind Japanese lines. The group employed light aircraft, C-47 transports, gliders, and early helicopters for troop insertion, medical evacuation, and supply drops during Operation Thursday in Burma. On the night of March 5, 1944, they launched the largest glider operation in history, 67 gliders towing troops and equipment 200 miles into Japanese territory to establish a fortified position code named Broadway. Despite crash landings and equipment losses, they successfully inserted over 9,000 troops and 1,300 animals within days. Their pioneering use of air mobility, close air support, and joint coordination with ground forces introduced the concept of integrated aerial special operations, an approach that later shaped modern U.S. Air Force Special Operations Command doctrine. OSS Detachment 101. OSS Detachment 101. Formed in April 1942 under the Office of Strategic Services, Detachment 101 was the first OSS unit to operate behind enemy lines. Stationed in Burma, it specialized in organizing and training local guerrilla forces, particularly the Kachin people, to resist Japanese occupation. The unit gathered intelligence, sabotaged supply routes, and guided Allied airstrikes during the Burma campaign from 1943 to 1945. Working closely with the 1st Air Commando Group, Detachment 101 provided critical reconnaissance, coordinated rescue operations for downed pilots, and disrupted Japanese logistics across 10,000 square miles of dense jungle terrain. By 1945, they had recruited and trained over 10,000 Kachin guerrillas who killed an estimated 5,428 Japanese soldiers, while suffering only 206 American casualties. Their success in combining indigenous resistance movements with Allied coordination and air support marked one of the earliest models of unconventional warfare in U.S. history. Tactics still used by Army Special Forces today. Naval Combat Demolition Units, NCDU. Naval Combat Demolition Units. Created in 1943 to meet the urgent need for specialized beach clearance teams, Naval Combat Demolition Units trained in demolition, swimming, and covert shoreline reconnaissance. Recruited from Navy personnel and Seabees, they prepared assault beaches by removing obstacles, barbed wire, and mines so landing craft could approach safely. NCDU teams trained at Fort Pierce, Florida, using British demolition techniques and underwater combat methods adapted for amphibious warfare. Their first major test came on June 6, 1944 D-Day. At Omaha Beach, NCDU teams faced German coastal defenses designed specifically to destroy landing craft steel hedgehogs, concrete tetrahedrons, and wooden ramps topped with teller mines. Under direct machine gun and mortar fire, they cleared 16 channels through the obstacles in the first wave. Casualties were catastrophic. 52% of NCDU personnel at Omaha were killed or wounded. In the Pacific, they supported landings from 1,944 to 1,945 by conducting pre-invasion surveys and obstacle removal at Guam, Saipan, and the Philippines. NCDU later evolved into the underwater demolition teams and established the foundation for modern maritime special operations. Alamo Scouts. Alamo Scouts. Activated in November 1943 inches. New Guinea, under General Walter Kruger's 6th Army. The Alamo Scouts were small reconnaissance teams formed to gather intelligence and conduct deep penetration patrols behind Japanese lines. They specialized in stealth movement, radio reporting, and coordination with Filipino guerrilla forces. Selection was brutal. Volunteers underwent a 6-week training course with a 50% failure rate, focusing on navigation, jungle survival, intelligence gathering, and silent movement. The Scouts are best known for their role in the Cabanatuan prisoner of war camp rescue on January 30, 1945, one of the most successful rescue operations in U.S. military history. Alamo Scouts infiltrated 30 miles behind Japanese lines, provided reconnaissance on enemy positions, and guided 121 Army Rangers to liberate over 500 Allied prisoners. Across 110 missions throughout the Philippines and New Guinea, from 1943 to 1945, no Alamo Scout was ever killed in action or captured. Their precision, discipline, and intelligence gathering methods directly influenced modern U.S. Army Special Forces reconnaissance doctrine. OSS Operational Groups. OSS Operational Groups. Formed under the Office of Strategic Services in 1943, the operational groups were paramilitary teams trained to operate behind enemy lines in occupied Europe. Each group consisted of multilingual soldiers specializing in sabotage, demolition, and coordination with local resistance movements. They supported missions in France, Norway, Italy, and Yugoslavia, notably assisting the French resistance during Operation Jedburgh in 1944. These units trained partisans in weapons handling and guerrilla tactics, destroyed rail lines and communication networks, and relayed real-time intelligence to Allied headquarters. In southern France, operational groups parachuted into the Vercors region and organized over 4,000 Maquis fighters to disrupt German reinforcements heading toward Normandy after D-Day. In Italy, they operated alongside partisan forces in the Apennine Mountains, conducting raids on supply convoys and German command posts. Their ability to blend direct combat with covert organization and foreign language capability made them the earliest example of U.S. forces conducting combined unconventional and guerrilla warfare in foreign territory tactics that defined modern Army Special Forces. SOEOSS Collaboration Units. SOEOSS Collaboration Units. During World War II, the Special Operations Executive of Britain and the Office of Strategic Services of the United States formed joint teams to unify Allied covert operations. Beginning in 1942, they shared training facilities, intelligence networks, and field agents across Europe and Asia. These collaborations produced missions like Operation Jedburgh, where mixed SOEOSS teams parachuted into France in 1944 to organize and arm local resistance movements ahead of D-Day. By June 6, over 93-man Jedburgh teams had deployed across France, Belgium, and the Netherlands, coordinating sabotage operations that delayed German reinforcements by days, sometimes weeks. They also worked in the Balkans, supporting Yugoslav partisans, in Norway, disrupting German supply lines, and in Burma, coordinating intelligence with local resistance forces. Their coordination pioneered multinational special operations partnerships, demonstrating that unified command structures and shared objectives could maximize effectiveness across different military cultures. This model of Allied special operations cooperation remains the foundation for NATO's Special Forces integration and Joint Task Force operations today. 11 elite units. Every one of them shaped the future of American warfare, but understanding how they operated explains why modern special forces still follow their playbook. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, drop a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel.